Hey everybody, it's the waitingfornextyear.com podcast from the basement. Okpants is on the line. We're going to try and give Cleveland a big warm hug. How you doing, man?
I'm good, buddy. I'm in the attic and you're in the basement. So it's the yin and the yang, the two most foremost minds on athletics and sports here to save Cleveland.
Yeah, unfortunately there's no sports to talk about, although I find myself going down the top 10 biggest, looking for those wonderful sports moments. I watched Game 7 of the NBA Finals where the Cavs won. I spent 5 minutes reliving Rajay Davis's home run, which even though I know how that one ends and it ends poorly, I can bring myself back to that moment where Scott from Waiting for Next Year and I were in the seats jumping up and down as high as we possibly could. And even the fact that the Indians didn't win in the end, it doesn't make me completely miserable today. How weird is that?
It's not weird because that was an all-time great moment regardless of the outcome of the game. And also I think since it happened the same year that the Cavs won the chip, it took a little bit of the sting off that loss. I think everybody really kind of thought that I don't know. I'm not a big baseball guy, but I feel like the Indians were playing with house money at that point.
Yeah, they really were. I mean, it was such a magical season and nobody felt like they should be there. So yeah, those are the kinds of things that I'm doing to try and distract myself, because we don't have sports. I'm filling in with past sports. What kind of things are you doing? And then at some point I want to talk about, this might sound a little bit cheesy at first, but some of the things that we've learned and the perspectives we've gained even just over the first week.
I mean, I'm trying to couch this in a way that doesn't make me sound like actually I don't own a TV kind of guy, but I work out of my home and I've, ran my business out of my home for over a decade. So the shift to sort of keeping myself busy in the confines of my own home hasn't been crazy for me. The notion that I can't really go anywhere besides the park and to go grab takeout for coffee or food is a bit of a headache, shall we say? But, I kind of thrive in times, unprecedented times like these, because boredom is kind of my great inspiration to just spew as much nonsense into the internet and create art and do content. So that's kind of what I've been busy with on my social channels, especially. My evolutionary advantage is my ability to lay in bed for hours at a time and do absolutely jack shit.
Well, and so the couple things. First of all, you sketched you have a Larry David sketch that has been on the socials, and that's really cool. It's always fun when you have a skill or ability that turns boredom into something that other people can appreciate.
Well, and here's the thing, and thanks, but I think it's a great time for people, and it's going to sound super life coachy, and I don't mean it to. It's a time that, if you ever wanted to try to learn to play the guitar, go grab a cheapo guitar or Amazon a guitar and figure it out. You got nothing but time. You really just got to sort of, I cling to the idea that this will be over one day, sooner than later, and using the time to sort of come out of the whole thing just a little better equipped than when I went in. So, but yeah, I am thankful that I kind of have skills and abilities that lend themselves to isolation and solitude.
I've been leaning into the creativity as well. I hadn't been writing much in the last probably 3-4 years. I wrote 4 or 5 times last week, just carving out that half hour. What I've realized is that as a family, we've probably overfilled our schedule and we haven't embraced boredom enough. And by being so busy and filling every microsecond of time with kids' activities and family activities and without embracing boredom, without embracing solo boredom, we've probably tamped down creativity, something that I've always found a lot of release in. So whether it's writing, I actually wrote a song this week, and I don't have a version that I'm ready to share with the world yet, but I shared it with enough friends that I trust that like I know it's actually worthy of pursuing. So I'm going to finish that. I haven't written a song in like 6 or 7 years.
And I think what's inspiring about that is you got two kids and a wife. Like you definitely, you know, your time's split up amongst having to make sure they're okay most of the time. I basically am a man that has nothing to live for. I got no kids, no family, no girlfriend right now, and I mean it's literally just like I have nothing to do but fill my time with meditating and just drawing and coming up with jokes.
I've seen your Instagram feed. You've got to be top 5 uncles in the Cleveland area.
Well, thanks, man. But being an uncle, it's kind of the most. It's like show. It's like being on the bench for like a championship team when they win the chip. You're like, yeah, hey, happy to be here. I really didn't do shit to earn this. So, but happy to do it. My 5-year-old celebrated his fifth birth. My 5-year-old nephew celebrated his fifth birthday yesterday, and that was probably the biggest bummer so far for me because it's like we couldn't have family over, couldn't go see him, and it's like I remember when I turned 5. So it's stuff like that to sort of get myself out of my own head and not become woe is me guy about stuff is important.
Yeah, we're going to try and figure out how April 9th is my son's 10th birthday. And ironically, I was supposed to be down in Columbus on April 8th seeing Death Heaven first and then coming back for his birthday.
Yeah.
So we're going to do everything we can to try and make it special. And honestly, I think that this will be a memorable birthday. The only way that it'll be a bad birthday is if you paint it you paint it with some brush that thinks you have to have a birthday party and you've got to have pin the tail on the donkey or Marvel superhero. Like it doesn't need that. That's a lot of the perspective I think I've gained is like we don't need all those big special things that we were chasing. I was chasing a lot of stuff the last 3 or 4 years, and this, if anything, this has led me to believe that I should stop chasing quite so much.
Yeah, it's a big old fat lesson in be happy with what you got and make the most of it. I mean, and I kind of have always approached life with that in mind. But yeah, it just sucks for kids. And I think, when the smoke clears on this whole thing, you can obviously probably throw a big party for them or something, or make good a rain game, or was it a rain out game or whatever. So I think it's a lot of, and I'm not expecting this whole thing to be done by Wednesday or, next week by any stretch of the imagination, but I cling a lot to the thought of the first weekend the bars are open again, or, the first weekend, the first day you're allowed to do anything that involves being closer than 10 feet away from a person,
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't know if it's Memorial Day. I don't know if it's June 15th. I don't know if it's July 4th, but I keep saying that I feel like we're investing.
I'd rather predict the Browns 2020 record than try to guess when this shit passes. It's very much a day by day thing for me right now, and thankfully that's kind of the way I just look at life. Anyways, like being a freelancer, it kind of unintentionally prepared me for the situation because I'm always kind of operating out of a sense of especially financial uncertainty, where rent's coming from 2 months from now, and just having literally very little control over any variables to do with what you're doing. So I'm not saying I'm Rambo and I'm ready for the shit to royally hit the fan, but I'm a little more equipped for it, I think, than most people that spend their time in offices and whatnot.
Yeah, for sure. I think, you live under that pressure. It's, you are the sales department. You are the creative director. You are the HR. You are, accounting. You got to do everything. And
Yeah,
So
I mean that said, and I don't want to get into we're not going to get into politics. I'm not at least, but it's the first people to get royally fucked about this whole situation will be independent contractors and people such as myself because I've heard nothing in regard to any potential relief packages for what we do.
yeah, nothing but zero interest loans. So you can live under the gun of another debt.
Yeah, thanks. I'll just go look for a 33% interest credit line before I take a loan out from my fucking government.
Yeah. No, I understand. It's and I don't want to get down the political path either, but I just if there's any faith that I have, it's that I think Ohio has done a really nice job and I didn't really expect it. So it just feels very pleasantly surprising, especially when I see and it's anecdotal, but anecdotal news about basketball courts in California and beaches in Florida, and we decided to take a family drive after dinner last night with no
Hmm.
place. We weren't stopping any place, but we just decided to go kind of check the landscape, and I
I
feel
love that, by the way. That's my favorite thing to do. But I'm sorry, go on.
no, and I my anecdotal evidence of making that drive is that Cleveland and Ohio is really taking this thing mostly seriously. I'm sure there are anecdotes of people being idiots, but at least in my little corner of Ohio, it seems like people are doing the right things.
Yeah, and I'm not going to pat any politician on the back right now, but I think the way that Mike DeWine has handled it and took the reins before a lot of other states in the country did and shut things down is to be acknowledged. Um, and I just hope that it's saved some lives and it's stopped whatever however much bleeding has been going on, and we can get as far ahead of it as we could get, if that's the way to put that. It's just such a fucking weird time, and I'm not panicked, and I'm not even depressed. It's just there's nothing to say other than it is a supremely strange fucking time right now.
Yeah, one of the weirdest ever. And whether I'm attacking it as business owner or father or citizen of my town and this larger region, it's just hard to figure out where we all fit in. Like, we're part of this nation, but we're also part of this state, and we feel like the state's doing a good job, but we also are subject to whatever's happening in New York and California and Florida and everything everywhere in between.
Hmm.
Um, and balancing that attention span in the social media world between what's happening locally versus what's happening nationally, it's really, really messing with my temperament and my whether I'm frustrated or depressed or anxiety ridden. So I had to shut down a lot of those things, just stop giving them access to my brain.
Oh no, it's I'm as guilty as anybody of paying too much attention to the wrong things, but it is a crash course in muting a lot of things and unfollowing and unfriending if you need to. And again, that's just kind of been standard practice for me. There's a reason that I use the internet 90% of the time for complete nonsense because um, you could use the internet for whatever you want. Like if you go looking for something on the internet, you're gonna receive it in spades. So I go to it for money, porn, and jokes. I don't go there to hear about doomsday. I'm aware of what's going on, and I think if I have any actionable advice for people, it would be to either log off Facebook or really start muting some terms and some accounts that are delivering far too much doom and gloom your way.
Yeah, people have already heard me say this, but I took Facebook off my phone first. That was number one. I needed to make it a little bit harder to look at that thing.
Hmm.
Um, but so it's never been easier to self isolate either. That's the beauty of the internet. It's also a one stop shop for anxiety and depression, but if you use it the right way, it could also make it so your family, like my kids are on season 16 of The Simpsons now. Like, so
They only got like 36 more seasons to go, so you got to really ration that out for them.
I know, right? I I did a podcast with Chris Clem earlier this week, and then I was able to watch Cliffhanger, and it was awesome.
The Stallone classic?
Absolutely. Have you watched it?
I don't know what other cliffhanger there would be, but yeah.
Have you watched it in the last 10, 15 years?
No, but I will tonight because no one consumes more 80s, 90s action movies over everything else than me. I watched Raw Deal last night, so, you know.
So when I was
starring
looking
Arnold
up,
Schwarzenegger.
yeah, when I was looking up Cliffhanger, it said you might also, one of those recommendation engines was also like you might also like to watch Over the Top, and I was like, you're goddamn right, I would.
I might get fucking real, Amazon. No, I just like so much of my days spent in front of screens doing actually productive things and stuff. So like at the end of the day when I'm winding down, I know I should probably read a book or I should watch like some substantial, artistic cinema or something, but I'll just end up watching Aquaman for the 20th time, or I'll watch, I'll fucking just watch Lethal Weapon 1 for the 300th time because it's just like, that's just that's how I wind down. And I don't know why I'm like this. I just am.
Well, yeah, some people do it with The Office or Friends or like there was a podcast.
Yeah, I suppose. I think I'm too hard on myself in terms of trying to be fucking cultured every hour of the day. But also, Aquaman's just a very fun movie to watch if you haven't watched it. I recommend taking it for a spin once.
It's funny. I like it, but I don't know that I'd recommend it, but I like it.
Here's my barometer for those movies. If Jason Momoa's in it and it looks like he's having a great time, it's a great movie. That's how I rate those movies.
Fair. We
like Justice League, he looked like he was having a great time. So I'm just like, as long as this dude's kind of smiling through it and has 24 abs, I'm kind of along for this ride, I suppose.
Well, that's the other thing. I put it through the parenting filter too. So like all the people my age or older who are critiquing the latest Star Wars trilogy, like, did my kids enjoy it both times in the theater? Yes. So, you could really dig anything apart and destroy it. But if that's what you're trying to do, you're looking for something that's completely airtight that can never be broken apart. You're always going to fail. You're always going to find failure.
That's an interesting point to say this. I think that's why people that don't generally try to create things or put themselves out there creatively should take this time to try that. Because let me tell you what couldn't be less useful in a modern society: anyone's opinions about any art whatsoever, especially when you've never tried it, It's like, I get it. Like, Twitter is 95% armchair quarterbacking and roasting, but it's like, just try it sometime, man. Go ahead. Go try to make like a 4-minute long video, or go try to draw a still life of any kind. And I'm not saying this to be shitty guy. I'm just saying it will change your perspective on so many things and settle your ass down. If you're into the professional internet criticizing, mode of behavior.
Yeah, my go-to examples are always like the end of TV series, whether we're talking about Dexter, Lost, or Game of Thrones. It's like, did you or did you not enjoy the 5-6 seasons of Dexter? Did you not enjoy all the dragons and stuff in Game of Thrones that you would allow it to be ruined by one final moment? Yeah,
I mean, listen, it's fair to have conversations about how you didn't enjoy this or that or the other. And I'm not saying no one should ever have an opinion about anything.
Petitions to have them redo it, though.
What's that?
Petitions to have them redo the ending of the show, however.
Oh, no, fuck off. That's the single shittiest, stupidest fucking behavior you can ever exhibit. And you deserve to have your Wizard World pass revoked if that's the way you're going to behave. But no, I think, like, text your friends. You know, if you're really that bummed out about how the last Skywalker or whatever the fuck it was called ended, or if you didn't like how Game of Thrones ended, text your friends about it. Have a conversation. But I just see people use the internet as their freaking, toilet to shit things out like that. It's like, what kind of you're not trying, you don't want to have a conversation here. You're sad because you decided to go, to state school instead of film school. And you would never even know how to load film into a camera, let alone anything that goes into making something like that. So I don't really know what I'm trying to say here. I guess I hate fucking nerds is what I'm saying.
Fair.
Which I guess being on a sports podcast is the place I'm supposed to be, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Although, like, we're not the ones playing the sports, so I think we're all kind of nerds in our own way.
Well, I don't want to start dissecting fan culture and shit because, those worlds need fans and they need super fans and they do need passionate people to make the thing go. And I hope when Armageddon ends here, they'll still be around for it. So I don't want to start going to that because sports Twitter is a very fun place for me to sort of be a tourist in. And I'm not going to act like I don't laugh at a lot of it throughout the day. So I don't want to start trying to police fan culture, I guess. I don't know what the fuck I'm saying right now. I'm very caffeinated.
But you led me.
Everybody's doing a great job. What?
You led me to the next topic.
Yeah.
Because you said, when you're disappointed in something or whatever, just text your friends. And that's something that has definitely picked up in a big way in my world, is that this has led me to, like, just send the, hey, thinking about you, miss you guys. What are you guys up to? How are you hanging in there? I've been sending that text message a lot to people from my past, college, high school, anywhere in between. I'm communicating more directly, asking how people are, in my company. Like it's really boosted the EQ.
Yeah. I mean, there's good in this whole situation. Like there's definitely, there's positives to how people are reacting to this whole thing. I have not texted one ex, for the record, that I've had throughout this ordeal. I just want, if there's a scoreboard for stupidity, you could put a point up there for me. But yeah, I mean, it's a lot of just, excuse me, that's not a Corona cough, by the way. It's a lot of, it's just a lot of people being hyper fucking connected and checking in on people and all that good stuff.
If there's a unifying experience, this is it.
That's what I'm saying. Like when this first hit and I was kind of talking with people, I was like, everybody's been through life shitting on them or depression or things not really going their way and having to deal with it alone, and then there's no worse feeling in the world than having to fight feeling like something's happening only to you and being an adult through it. But when everybody's mutually fucked, it's kind of like, all right, we're all in this together now, whether you like it or not. So that is a consoling aspect of it to me. And I'm not saying that like, well, if it's going to happen to me, then it's got to happen to that guy. It's more like we're literally all in this together right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And there are very few moments in the history of this country, certainly in our lifetime, where we had these unifying moments.
Even, cause I was an adult when 9/11 happened, as you were. So like, I remember it and as fucked up as it was still sort of a thing where like, okay, this only happened in 3 or 4 or 5 areas of the country and affected immediately only a pretty small portion of the population. This is something that's going to go on, we can assume, for at least the next month or so to everybody, like everyone. And it's terrible, but it is also a thing where it's like, let's fucking learn from this to make sure it never happens again.
Yeah,
in our lifetime or any other lifetime.
Yeah, and I think we're learning a skill set too, because I'm not sure that we can ever guarantee this never happens again. but I can guarantee that we'll be a lot smarter in terms of how to deal with it next time. We'll have the muscle memory. It won't be the same level of shock and stupidity at the beginning, hopefully. Um, there will always be shock and stupidity, but maybe not to the level that we've had this time. And I would actually like to talk about that one for a second too, because like,
Yeah,
lay off the spring breakers. They're anecdotal people at this point. I know what they did was dumb. I know that when you stick a microphone in front of somebody's face, it might be the dumbest moment in their entire lifetime.
dude, there is nothing I thank God more for than when I was 21. People didn't have YouTube or camera phones.
Yes.
Because I don't defend getting on TV, red faced as shit, looking like you already have coronavirus, talking about partying and your inalienable right to get blackout drunk. But yeah, I get it, man. Like that's what young people do. They're fucking dumb. So that's why, you know, it's like when Rudy Gobert tested positive and immediately everyone shat at him. And I go, do you think this guy was like licking rails and like door handles at Walmart all day long? Like, it's not like a blaming situation here. It's kind of just like we all got to get on the same page about it and figure out how to react positively so we can get through this quicker. But yeah, I'm not. You can point fingers at 21-year-olds all day long if you want to. It just only makes me feel older.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and the other, I've seen a lot of defensiveness from the millennials, of which I guess I'm technically not one. I would either be the youngest Gen Xer in the history of the world or the oldest millennial in the history of the world.
We are technically Xennials.
Xennials.
And I hate that I poured any research into this, but we are somewhere between Gen X and millennials. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay. But how crazy is it that the very youngest millennials right now are too old for spring break? They're like 24 or 25 years old.
Well, to be honest, man, like millennials don't, and I'm painting with a broad brush here. Millennials don't seem like they ever were into partying or acting like, 80s movie young people, college age kids.
They're not the girls gone wild generation.
Great way of putting it. So I don't know who manufactured this whole conversation and controversy about pitting millennials against boomers and Gen Xers and whatever other made up labels we've applied, but so it seems like a waste of time to me. I mean, it's again, if you're going to spend your time pointing fingers, we're not getting anything fixed anytime sooner than that. So I don't pretend to know what the solution is beyond staying home and staying the fuck away from people. But if you want to point fingers at, 28-year-olds that are drowned in student debt and credit card debt and will never be able to afford a house, go ahead.
Yeah, which brings me to my final concept. If I'd known 3 or 4 weeks ago what I know now, I would have chosen we would have chosen one buddy family that was going to be as hardcore about separation as we were, but we were willing to risk being together. Like one buddy family.
Yeah.
I wish we had the buddy system. I wish we had the buddy system.
You don't want to talk to a single guy about what kind of company you're willing to risk having in these times, because it's.
I'm waiting for the Tinder stats.
I literally have been hanging onto a screen grab from a dating app I'm on, where like your profile is basically like they ask you dumb questions like you're an 8-year-old, and then one of the questions it asks you is this year I want to ... and I just replied, leave my house. So, needless to say, I will probably be continuing to be single through the great plague of 2020, but it's just not worth it. Like even a lot of my friends, they've been distancing and they haven't been going to bars in crowded areas for like a week or so now. You just don't. I have asthma, man. I don't need to risk whatever could happen just to quarantine and chill with anybody right now.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense.
You just don't know. You don't know. It's like let's chill for a few fucking weeks and see what happens.
All right, so let's leave them. Let's leave them with a couple recommendations. I mentioned Cliffhanger. My wife and I also watched The Invisible Man, which is technically in theaters, although all the theaters are closed. So they released it video on demand, a little bit expensive, $20 to rent it, but I guess pretty comparable to.
Are they really charging $20 to rent a fucking movie?
Yeah, well, it's pretty comparable to a couple people going to an actual theater.
That still seems irresponsible to me, but having seen The Invisible Man, I will say if you have 3 or 4 people over, it's worth $20.
Yeah, it was marginally worth it with just 2 of us because my kids are not old enough to watch it. So do you have any recommendations of things that people can consume? Maybe some things that people can support if they have the means. I understand not everybody, a lot of people don't have the means right now. They're in need, not in a position.
Well, Craig, I'm glad you asked. I'm glad you asked because I happen to be in a movie that is releasing to video on demand on April 14th called Powerbomb.
Yes.
It will not be $20. I'm assuming it will probably be more affordable than that, but it's finally hitting video on demand and streaming on April 14th. So if you want to follow me on social, I'll have more information on that.
You are prominently featured in the trailer. It made me so happy.
Dude, let me tell you, like, it was a fucking trip to watch myself be in an actual movie, especially because my parents were sitting right in front of me. But for some reason, seeing myself in the actual trailer made it feel even more real for some reason, because we didn't do a trailer when we screened it. So that was like the big mind fuck for me about it. But
and tell everybody what kind of part you play, because I think it's perfect.
Yeah, Powerbomb is basically like a horror movie / wrestling movie. It's like a thriller. The best way I could describe it is kind of like Misery meets independent wrestling. So I play a manager of the star in the movie, Matt Cross. And I won't give anything more away in it, but I've never done anything like that in my life, and I'm real proud of my performance in it, and I'm proud of everybody else that worked on it. So,
but a manager like Bobby the Brain Heenan, or
the Brain and Paul Heyman were kind of like my 2 sources of inspiration for the character, and I'm no Daniel Day-Lewis, so I kind of just I very much approached it like I would, a character actor would. So I'm real proud of it, and I would like people to see it. And since you really can't leave your houses now, there's no better time to really try to pin you down and make, pun not intended, and make you watch the thing. But it's fun. It's a fun movie, and and so stuff you could watch this week. What did I just watch? Like actual movie, not like Aquaman movies that I watched. I think Midsummer is pretty fucked up to watch in a good way. I know it got mixed reviews, but I found it pretty terrifying. Strange Wilderness is a comedy that was made about, I want to say 9 or 10 years ago. It's incredibly stupid in the best possible way. If you partake in smoking certain things, it probably makes an even funnier movie. I'm not a weed guy, but if you are, it's very much a weed movie. What else have I been watching? I Think You Should Leave on Netflix is really fucking funny. If that came out last year, it's a sketch comedy show. I could go on and on.
I'm watching the High Fidelity TV series on Hulu.
I heard about that. Yeah.
So far so good. I love that movie. So for me, it was a natural. That
is interesting. That shows an interesting concept in 2020, years after the record store is any sort of culturally viable thing.
Yeah. So instead of John Cusack, it's Zoe Kravitz. Instead of Jack Black, it's a black woman. I don't know what her name is, but it works. Surprisingly, all the recasting works. I like it.
I'll have to watch. I haven't watched the original High Fidelity in years, and I watched it before I really understood what relationships and all that stuff was about. So, might be worth revisiting.
That's my same relationship to the movie Singles. Like I watched Singles because I loved Seattle music, but I was way too young to understand any of the dynamics of Gen X relationships.
Yeah, I don't even know if I watched it as a 40-year-old in 2020 if I'd really understand, because the 90s were such a fucking weird time. Like it just was a weird time that people basically celebrated apathy and being about nothing. So maybe we're headed back to that.
But it's funny, like I really wanted to see that. I wanted to love that movie, but I was like 13. What did I know?
Right, right. There's a lot of things like music and film wise, I think that I thought I was supposed to be into just because I was a teenager trying to be too cool for everything. And I look back at some of it and I go, oh, it just kind of sucked. But I'm trying to think of some stuff that all I do is watch shit. And of course, when you put me, it's like the old record store thing, right? When I think of a million things I want, and then when I would actually step through the door of the record store, I wouldn't remember a goddamn thing. And that's kind of what I feel like right now. And also, I just stare at my phone too much. So, like, it's just me trying to watch something. Started watching that Tiger King show on Netflix.
Yeah, I heard about that one. So the last one I'll leave everybody with is an old favorite.
Yeah, sorry.
I think it's still on Netflix. It was on 2 weeks ago when I was taking a flight across the country. And that's Step Brothers. So,
oh my God. Yeah. Yes.
Everybody needs an old faithful comedy like that, just to like, even if you don't want to laugh, even if you're not in the mood to laugh, that one will blow you up.
That's all the more reason to watch that movie. That movie isn't just one of my favorite comedies. It's one of my favorite movies, period, of any genre, because my favorite kind of comedy is grown men acting like children. And the acting in that movie from every single person is beyond superb. Not just like comedic, stupid behavior. Like it is like a master class in acting.
All right. I'm
like
going to put you on this. Go ahead.
Adam Scott in that movie is unbelievable. I'm sorry. Go on.
No, I'm going to put you on the spot. So, best movies, best comedies where adult grown men act like children. Second has got to be Billy Madison, right?
I would put Billy Madison as first. Billy Madison is probably my all-time favorite comedy, period. I watch that movie at least once a year just to make sure I'm not like lying to myself. And every time I watch it, I go, when Uncut Gems came out, I was the happiest dude in the world because I felt like my favorite band finally got signed to a label that no one else was like. I knew he had this in him the whole time. You guys just didn't fucking understand. But yeah, Billy Madison. Freddie Got Fingered.
Oh yes,
it is. Freddie Got Fingered might be like the most punk rock major studio release movie ever made. The things that he gets away with doing in that movie are unbelievable.
So when that movie was released, I lived in Boston. I was in college, and I took a bunch of my friends. I forced them all to go to the theater and see that movie with me, and like half of them did not get it and make fun of me to this day, and I'm still proud of it. I don't care.
That's why it's an amazing movie, because he got a studio to give him millions of dollars to jack off a horse before the opening credits are over. Like I remember I was 19 when that movie was in theaters and I was watching it. And as an artist, I was like, I'm so in awe that this dude got away with doing anything in this movie. It's just surreal. It's like G.G. Allen level Hollywood behavior in a movie.
And it's like, you and I aren't old enough to really have experienced Andy Kaufman, but it's Kaufman-esque.
Yeah, like I struggle with Tom Green because, well, I'm not going to go down that road with it, but like, my point with Tom Green is he literally, like in the 90s, was on that level. I think he hit it. I think Eric Andre hit that level of like Andy Kaufman-esque like quality comedy and stuff. But yeah, Tom Green was literally risking getting his ass beat by actual people on a weekly basis for his TV show.
Oh yeah. And it's no wonder that he came out of like the skate video scene.
Yeah. It always kind of ties back to that, like with the you can't have this conversation without mentioning Jackass, because it's all born of that punk rock energy, and that the skateboarding world is founded on dudes that literally throw their own poop at each other for the sake of a joke and to see how far you can push it.
So I have a story about Jackass. It might have been the second movie. I can't remember whether the first or second movie. But I was on a business trip with Parker Hannafin, and
Hmm.
I was the youngest one there. It was a couple of IT project managers and me, and we went out to dinner and we had nothing else to do, and I forced them to go see Jackass or Jackass 2, whichever one it was. And like I was the youngest one there. These guys were probably in their mid 40s, early 50s, something like that. And I've never seen grown men laugh harder in my entire life. And they were not in the demo for that movie at all whatsoever. And it was just a surreal movie, a surreal moment in the theater. We're in the middle of like Chanhassen, Minnesota, in the middle of nowhere. And these three old men who don't belong going to a movie together are watching Jackass.
Oh, those dudes, like, my dad and I agree on some things with comedy, but we definitely have our own tastes at this point. He would watch those Jackass movies and cry laughing at all of them. That those movies cut across every demographic and like age and gender or whatnot. Like, there's very few people that don't at least respect what Jackass was. Like, they tapped into like something very elemental, like just very Three Stooges, like the purity of what they did. Um, like they're just it's a legendary TV and film establishment in my and to sound way too pretentious about it, but those guys legends.
So one final movie that I can think of that I think should qualify, even though it's not the same as the other ones we've mentioned, but it's got that old man doing young guy things energy, is Dodgeball.
Yeah, no, Dodgeball didn't quite reach like Billy Madison levels with me, but it's a very fun movie to watch. I think Jason Bateman might be my favorite part of that movie
Oh my God, yes. And just
because
like,
I was like, because I mean, the shock of him being a comedic actor in that movie at that time caught me off guard. But yeah, he was. I haven't watched it. I've only watched it probably a couple of times, but yeah, it's a very funny movie.
all right, any other obvious ones that we're missing before we sign off?
Comedies, I mean, you really went for. I will guarantee you remember some as soon as I get off with you. But we hit Billy Madison, we hit Step Brothers. I got nothing for you right now beyond that.
Okay. Well, if the rest of you listening to this think of any of those like old men doing young men thing comedies that fit into this category, let us know. It's good catching up, man. I know it's weird times, but it's fun. It's fun to carve out the time to catch up with people.
I know it is, man, and no one excels more at taking advantage of a captive audience than me. Can I? With that said, can I get a quick plug in?
Absolutely.
Follow me at okpants, okpants on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. I'm going to have some stuff on sale here shortly in the next week. So some quality stuff that I had in production before this shit hit. And now I got to kind of unload it for cheap prices for everybody. So okpants.com and okpants on socials.
All right. That's it. Thanks so much for listening, everybody. We'll talk to you next time. It's been the waitingfornextyear.com podcast.
Thanks.